Douglas Ferguson here, and I'm live today. And you're getting a little bit of a behind-the-scenes view. My camera is down today, so I'm at a funny angle. But happy to have Galia Amer here with me. Welcome to the show, Galia.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and really enjoyed your talk during Control the Room this year, and wanted to, take the opportunity to get you on the live stream and talk a little bit more about the work you do. In the pre-show chat, really thought it was fascinating, just drawing the parallels into the workforce, uh, and how people show up in the same ways that that you're noticing, or at least your passion toward helping these kids kind of transform the way they show up. So maybe tell the audience a little bit about what you do, and then maybe we can kind of just kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of TalkMaze. We help schools implement public speaking and debate programs, and we do individual coaching as well for public speaking and debate. So a lot of our work is with youth at the moment, around usually 12 to 17 years of age, and we help them build public speaking skills through a lot of different activities and run these programs throughout the year for schools.
Yeah, and one of the things that is not surprising when I asked you what the number one challenge was, or when you started working with kids, like what is the thing you noticed to be the most common barrier, and it's that lack of confidence or not speaking up. And we see that all the time in companies too, for various reasons.
Yeah, definitely. And I was very shy growing up. I didn't have the confidence to speak up, and that's where I came up with TalkMaze from, is because I knew what it felt like to not have a voice, to feel like you're not confident. And a lot of the kids that go through our programs, so not even just kids, even professionals, when they have to speak up at meetings, it's a lack of confidence that holds people back. So I say we do public speaking and debate training at TalkMaze, but really it's about building confidence in these kids so that when they go into being professionals, they already have that confidence to speak up and voice their opinions, because the biggest thing that does hold people back is that lack of confidence.
Yeah, and you were talking about a few things that, or kind of the roots of that lack of confidence, which is like, fear of being judged, which is really common. And when there's a lack of psychological safety, if they've been judged a lot, then they're going to go more into their shell because they just don't want to experience that anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And unfortunately, the way the school system often is set up is that like kids will get oral presentations or assignments, but then they won't get the opportunity to practice the skills that actually are required to deliver those. And then likewise, you go into the workforce, and in the workforce, you have to give presentations, but no one really ever tells you how to do that. And if a lot of times, if someone fails in that, that pushes them back then, right? If they try and they fail, they don't want to do it again. And a goal of what we do is creating that safe space where it's okay to fail. You can give a terrible speech, but it'll be okay because we'll help you get back up and move forward. But if the only time you're giving that presentation is now in the workplace setting, and it's especially if it's not a setting you're comfortable in, that failure can push people back and want them and make them want to be a lot quieter in the future as well.
Yeah, and I feel like so much of the certainly the education I received, and I don't think a lot has changed since then. When you look at the elementary, middle school, high school, so much of it is about having the right answers, like it is right and wrong. And so we instill this concept of like, I have to have the right answer. I got to do it correctly. And then you get assessed or graded on the fact of doing it right or wrong. And there really isn't much room to practice and to build capability that is more on a continuous spectrum versus like, is it correct or not, right?
Yeah, that's very true. We're taught to follow the rules, get good grades, and like just keep doing that rather than breaking those rules or trying to speak up, because there is that fear of failing or even getting bad grades. All of that is ultimately associated with fear, and that's what then goes on to our adult lives as well and continues into the workforce.
Yeah, it also reminds me of something you were telling me earlier around the work that you do being kind of starting from a place of fun and exploration. And I think that's really smart and exciting. and it seems like it really just kind of disarms these fear mechanisms, and it kind of creates something that's maybe more approachable for the students.
Yeah, and that's really important. Sometimes the kids will come into our sessions because their parents or their teachers encourage them to join. So they're a little hesitant to be there themselves. But our goal is that after the first couple of sessions, it's not their teachers or parents pushing them anymore. It's the kids themselves saying, hey, I want to go because they feel comfortable, they feel like they're having fun. So we'll often start off with debate and speech games where they're playing a game like a superhero battle. You're Superman, there's Batman. If you're both battling, who's going to win, and each of them get 1 minute to speak on it. So they think they're doing a superhero battle, but they're also practicing critical thinking skills and communication, thinking on the spot, public speaking within that game, and they're having fun doing it. So when we do these kind of activities with the kids, they feel a lot more comfortable, and that's the ultimate goal of creating that space so then they can go on and practice longer speeches, they can practice one-on-one communication and feel comfortable doing that in that environment.
Yeah, it's really intriguing that because it's funny, the fear of judgment is in itself a form of judgment, you know? They're judging themselves and overthinking the situation they're in, and moving into these moments of play kinda shuts down that judgment mechanism, I would imagine, right? They stop being so judgmental of themselves or so, like, analytical.
Yeah, that's true. It really helps them also just build relationships with the people around them
Mm.
and realize that they're not trying to judge each other. They're really there to help each other grow. And that really helps them as well build their own skills. I remember people that I did public speaking and debate practices with when I was a kid, they're still really close friends of mine. And we built close relationships because we felt comfortable being around each other and building those skills together.
That's really interesting, this notion of the support system and that rapport, it's really powerful. Really quite
Yeah.
cool. So maybe, I'd be curious to hear more about some of the games. Like, what are some of the ones that are your favorites to do kind of, with the kids kind of early on, or maybe even just some that are kinda highlights throughout the journey that you're like, "Oh, it's really fun when we get to this point."
Yeah. The kids love the ABC game. That one's always a fan favorite. Basically, it's just kind of like a debate, but they have to start. One of the kids starts a sentence with A. So, for instance, astronauts are incredible, and then the other person responds with B. So, but haven't you considered firefighters? So now they're continuing having a conversation, but one starts with A, then with B, C, and their goal is to do it fast, like so to not forget the next letter of the alphabet. So keep that in mind, but also say the next sentence and use a different letter with it. So they always get into that because they like to have small arguments where it's like the person who's starting with A has a different viewpoint than the person who's starting with B. And so it's a little debate that we're doing, but it has a twist to it where they're trying to get to the end of the alphabet. And if one of them forgets the letter, then the next person comes into the game. And the kids always have a really fun time doing that one.
Yeah, that reminds me of, some improv games.
Yeah.
I think there's a variant of that where instead of the next letter in the alphabet, you have to start your response with the letter of the last word
Mhm.
from your partner, which means
Yeah.
that you have to really listen, 'cause if you're not listening, you won't know what that last word letter was.
Yeah, no, improv games are very similar and they're also super helpful to get kids anybody to be more comfortable in the environment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that. It's like, c and l it's kind of a fun little, um, I would say it's a little subversive in a way, right? Like, it's like we kinda, like, got them focused on one thing, but then they're actually learning and making progress at the same time. It's like someone once told me, "Learning's what happens when you think you're doing something else."
Yeah, yeah, totally. I didn't realize that how much doing debate when I was a kid would help me in my post-secondary or in the workforce because in the moment I was just having fun with my friends. And I realized when I was submitting university applications, scholarship applications, and then going to work meetings that hey, these are skills that are really useful. And I was just having fun with my friends when I was in school.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow. It's amazing. I guess, are there, and the average age of the students you're working with, did you say they were around 13?
Yeah, they're around the average age would probably be around 12 to 14, but we work with anywhere from like 6 years old to 17. And then sometimes we have some adults who do one-on-one training with us as well.
Nice. Yeah, I would imagine some adults would find this really powerful, especially if they wanted something a little more, kind of, broad and creative versus
Yeah.
because a lot of times, uh, programs that are focused on, like, public speaking can be kind of methodical or just like, "Oh, someone's doing your counter," or whatever, whereas this seems to be a little bit more intrinsic and like, digging into some of the deeper stuff.
Yeah, a few of the adults that we work with, they often come because they're hoping to generally build their confidence and they understand that public speaking is the way to do it. I'm here with a couple adult students myself one-on-one, and a lot of it is because they want to generally build their confidence because they recognize that once they get over that public speaking anxiety, they'll see that translate into all areas of their life. This impacts every part of your life, not just professionally, academically, socially, and a lot of the adult students we work with, they recognize that and they want that kind of general public speaking guidance, and that helps them build their confidence.
So what'd you say is the difference between working with, like, a six-year-old versus, like, an adult?
Well, 6 year olds definitely have much shorter attention spans, so we'll definitely go a bit slower with our content. We'll do more fun exercises. We're building a lot of foundational skills. Also, I think that a lot of the fear of judgment that we have, it builds up as we grow older. So sometimes, if I'm working with a 25-year-old, they might actually have a different level and a more severe type of anxiety with public speaking because maybe they've had experiences that have shut them down and now they have more of a fear. Whereas a 6 year old, oftentimes they're super energetic and they're not afraid of voicing themselves. I think that a lot of people learn that their voice doesn't matter as they grow up. So with kids, we can do a lot more really fun exercises, get them talking, and they're very energetic sometimes. And the approach is a lot more tailored, I think, as I'm working with, especially with adults, it's usually one-on-one training. So it's very tailored to the person, what experiences are preventing you from being confident and being a strong public speaker, and how can we address that? So it helps in all different areas. So definitely more tailored and really addressing where that public speaking anxiety comes from, and then helping them through activities that they're doing, or maybe even applying it to the real world, like asking them to, hey, okay, use these techniques and go use them in your meeting next week. Make sure you voice yourself and use these techniques when you're speaking up in your meeting next time. So very tailored and specific to experiences that they have.
Yeah, it's like we gotta deprogram the adults, and
Yeah,
then the kids, we gotta make sure they know not to be programmed. Like, "Watch out for this because it's coming."
yeah, exactly.
So what are the kids kinda like the ABC game, are there games or techniques you think the adults, like, gravitate toward more or that you think are kind of like a fan favorite?
With adults, we do a lot of impromptu speaking exercises. So you get a topic, you speak on it for 2 minutes, or we'll do another game, I guess, called a dictionary game, where you speak on a word for 30 seconds, maybe the word beach, and then 30 seconds in, I'm going to give you another word, but it'll be completely unrelated, like eyes. So now you just keep talking about beach, but also integrate what I'm saying, something about eyes, and then I'll give you another word 30 seconds in. So it's a lot of thinking on the spot and impromptu speaking. I like to start my coaching sessions with adults with some sort of impromptu exercise like that, because that's what gets them thinking on their feet, critical thinking, and then also articulating their ideas rather than having to write everything down. A common theme I actually notice is a lot of adults want to write it all down and then they're really comfortable speaking it as long as they have it all prepared. But we don't always have it all prepared when we're actually need to talk. So that's why I will usually dive straight into impromptu speaking, because once you can master that, then it's much easier to master prepared speaking or any other form of communication because your ideas can flow. So definitely impromptu speaking.
That's really cool. It reminds me of, so many things, but there's a really cool liberating structure called impromptu prototyping, and the whole idea is that if we solve problems by embodying the experience of that situation, so that we don't just talk about a solution or we don't just write a solution down, but we experience it by, like, simulating, like, doing a thing, we can come up with
Yeah,
much more creative solutions, and we can internalize it much more meaningfully, right? And so
yeah,
if they're actually practicing it, then they build kind of muscle. They internalize it. They build muscle memories. They've integrated it. So when they come back to it, they're like, "Oh, this is familiar."
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, we just hit the top of the hour, and I know you have a hard stop. So Golly, I wanted to thank you for being here. I know we could talk for a long time about this stuff, but the end has come, and I love what you do, and really want to commend you for that because I think it's really important. And keep up the good work, and we'll talk again more soon.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having me. This was so fun.